All right, Rockfin, let's go. Here we go.
I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati. I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati.
All right, all right. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to Sabby's podcast. I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati. If you are new, I want to let you know that Sabby's podcast is a part of Revolutionary Blackout Network. You can catch me there on Thursday for the roundtable and Friday for the Sabby show. And you can catch me here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. Quick shout out to everyone watching on YouTube, Rockfin, and Twitter. Want to give quick shout outs to people in the chat, and then we'll get into tonight's news stories. Guys, if you haven't had a chance to do so, make sure you sign up for my newsletter. You'll receive alerts every time I go live. This is really beneficial because sometimes YouTube does not send out the notifications. So definitely sign up for that. What's going on, Sabby Sav? Says CJ's live stream got pulled again. What stream? I don't know. What stream? I'll have to check. I'll have to check and then let them know. Shout out to Hannah G says Sabby time. Whoopity boop boop. Greetings, the commie grasshopper says hello. Hello to you too. Shout out to Lee Richards says Sabs hi. Greetings, Dana says I am seething about Amir Locke. Yes, I can't wait to get into that story. Shout out to Razal the Great says hashtag Amir Locke. What's going on, Gamer and Ganja for Life says hello. Shout out Kim says hi, Sabby, doobie doobie doo. What's going on, Kinshi Jones says hey, dear Sabby, hey to you too. Shout out to Super Patriot who says fire. Greetings. Excuse my voice, you guys. I've been talking a lot today. Greetings, Terry says hi again, everyone. What's going on? Shaka says howdy. Howdy to you too. What's going on? Christian Gomez says, aw, shit. Let's go, Sabby Sabs. Let's go. Let's go. Greetings, Hugo says hi. Lawrence Johnson says doobie doobie doo. Shout out to Jenna Colby. I got your email earlier today. I believe I responded. I think I did. If not, let me know. Says doobie doobie doo. Shout out to G.A. Freckles, who's a Sabby member, says, howdy, y'all, family. Lots of howdies tonight. Greetings, Joe OWS said, I'm glad Sabby made this short and sweet. I mean, God bless Jimmy Dora and all but 45 effing minutes, the build up and audience. Come on now. What do you mean? What are you talking about, Joe? I don't know what you mean. Shout out to Delthea Simmons, who's a Sabby member, says greetings and salutations to one and all. What's going on, CBC voters? Says 12.3K. It grows. I noticed that right before I went live. Shout out to Yipper99 said, did CJ and Nick's video really get pulled? Also, hi, Sabby. Which video are you guys referring to? Just let me know in the chat. Shout out to Danielle. Hi, Sabby. Happy Wednesday, everyone. Hello to you as well. What's going on? Natalie says your shirt is beautiful. Thank you. It's a wrap shirt. You know those shirts that you just kind of wrap around? It's very comfortable. I don't remember where. Oh, Loft. I got this from the Loft outlet. Shout out to Pirate Alex says, hey, guys. Hey to you, too. Shout out to H. Bidentist. Why not Thursday? I don't know what's happening Thursday. Oh, why not Thursday? On Thursdays, I'm on Revolutionary Blackout Network's Roundtable. That's why I'm not live on this channel on Thursdays. So Shout out to Eric T. Red, who's a Sabby member, says, hey ho, lefty friends. Hey ho to you too, Eric. Greetings, Muhammad says, hi, Sabby. Becca C says, hi, giving a shout out to Gamer for Life. Everett says, liking the shirt, Sabby. Thanks, guys. I've had the shirt for years too, by the way. I think I've gotten everyone. Shout out to Johnny Quest says, L. Shout out to Anthony, sends a smiley face. What's going on? Ashura says, hey, Sabrina, no, a stream, but a rerun. What rerun? Yeah, I don't know what you guys are talking about. You'll have to give me a little bit of details here. Shout out to Patrick says, woo, made Sabby Sab show. Hype, y'all. Greetings, Aspen Fallen, with your volcano and your hearts. All right, guys, let's go ahead and get into it tonight. So, what are we talking about tonight, ladies and gentlemen? I'm going to share my thumbnail here. Should be a pretty interesting discussion. Tonight, I'm talking about Russell Brand warning. What is this all about, and how does this involve CNN and Facebook? And more importantly, should you be concerned? We're also going to talk about Joe Biden pushes access to healthcare. Let's get into that story. And we're going to discuss Amir Locke charges dropped. Not the news that we were wanting to hear, but it is a story that we definitely need to discuss and go into detail about. I want to give a quick shout out to everyone who is a Sabby patron. Thank you so much. If you want to become a Sabby patron, I have 4 categories: members, Sabbies, Sabsters, and Ultimate. All of their names are listed here. Thank you guys so much. I really do appreciate the support. And you can also see their names scrolling across the bottom of the screen. So let's go ahead and get into the first story. Hi, Afeni. Afeni. I was watching CJ's live once, and they took it down while he was live. Edward said it's the video CJ and Nick did talking about how BreadTube serves imperialism. Why would they take that down? Weird. I don't know if they know that. I'll let them know if they don't know. Yeah, I'll have to let them know about it. I have to double check and let them know. Interesting. Very weird. Very weird. Let's go ahead and get started. So I do want to start with the Amir Locke story. Now, for those of you who are not familiar, Amir Locke is the gentleman who was killed by police officers in Minneapolis. This was just a couple of months ago, and they had a no-knock warrant. So they barged into the apartment. He reached for the gun. They shot and killed him. His mother is speaking about this story. And today, it was announced that these officers that killed Amir Locke will not be charged. The charges are now dropped. So they are not going to face any consequences at this moment. Let me go ahead and get into the story. I have a video here that I want to play. So hopefully this goes well here. So give me just a second, you guys. I hope it doesn't have an ad.
In the Amir Locke shooting case. That's news today from Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison and Hennepin County Attorney Mike Freeman. Locke was shot and killed by police in February as they raided a downtown apartment. Locke was sleeping on the couch at that time when police say he woke up, grabbed a gun, and pointed it at them. That's when they say they shot him. Ellison and Freeman say there was insufficient admissible evidence. We want to take you to their press conference now.
Appreciation for the partnership with the Attorney General, himself and his staff. We have had very positive professional.
1 second. Eric, can we use volume booster? I'll let you do it because I don't want to mess it up. Yay. Thank you, Eric. Eric's so much better at this than me.
The successful prosecution of several police officers recently. That partnership is reflected in the decision we present today. Thank you, Keith, and your team.
Yes, sir.
The Hennepin County Attorney's Office, Minnesota Attorney General's Office, and an independent expert, each separately and independently, have arrived at the conclusion that charges cannot be brought in this case. We will talk about that in response to your questions. Keith?
I want to thank you as well, Hennepin County Attorney Freeman. I want to thank your office. I'd like to thank the BCA, and I'd like to thank my colleagues. And this is the kind of work that we have to do. But I want to just note a few things. Amir Locke's life mattered. At 22 years old, he was only starting out. He had a job. He was making ends meet. He dreamed of being an entrepreneur. He was interested in real estate and branding his own business. He was about to move to Dallas to start a music career as his father had before him here in Minnesota. Amir came from a loving family. His mother, Karen, and his father, Andre, and many other family members and friends who loved him dearly. He had family in the military and in law enforcement, and he admired members of law enforcement. According to news reports, Amir's parents counseled him about how to handle interactions with the police. Keep your hands visible. Don't make any sudden movements. One thing Amir was not a suspect. Our investigation found no evidence that he had any role in the homicide investigation that brought the police to his door at 6:48 on February 2nd.
Okay. I'm going to interrupt right here and then I'll come back into the video. So let's run through this really quick. Amir Locke had no priors, by the way. This is not someone that had a record. Pretty much a straight shooter.
Was a victim.
They just confirmed.
He never should have been.
Okay, sorry. They just confirmed that Amir Locke was also not a suspect. And yet they just told you that they cannot charge the officers at this time. So let me get this straight, ladies and gentlemen. He was not a suspect. He had no priors. Even if he did have priors, that still doesn't give them an excuse to kill him. But the charges have been dropped against the officers. I want to remind you that this took place in Minneapolis, the same city where George Floyd was killed by police officer Derek Chauvin. And it was actually the same judge that issued the no-knock warrant for Amir Locke. It's nice of them to mention now that Amir Locke was a good kid, that he was about to move to Texas, that his life mattered. But none of those statements are going to undo what was already done. Amir Locke is dead. Where were those considerations when the police officers burst into that apartment and killed him? Where were those considerations then? Let's go back into the video because they give more detail about this.
Called a suspect. The role that County Attorney Freeman and I took on was to determine whether the current law permitted us to file criminal charges in Amir's death. And in so doing, we had to evaluate all the evidence to Minnesota's use of force statute, which is rooted on a 33-year-old Supreme Court precedent called Graham versus Connor. As we announced this morning, we have determined that under the precedent and the laws that we have, we cannot file criminal charges. Current law only allows us to evaluate the case from the perspective of a reasonable police officer.
So then there's something wrong with the precedent. I have a problem with the law. I have a problem with the precedent in place that allows those police officers to get away with this. I have a problem with that. Every one of you watching this right now should have a problem with that precedent. Now I'm going to let him go on and continue and explain to you why they were able to drop the charges. He's going to go into more detail, but I did just want to jump in and say that this is where we need to have a problem with the law that is in place. So here we go.
And that language is from the Fourth Amendment of the U.S.
Whoops, sorry.
Constitution and relevant cases and statutes. We're not allowed to evaluate the case from the perspective of the victim. With all of the available evidence, we would not be able to prove in court that Officer Henneman's use of force was not authorized under the law beyond a reasonable doubt. It would be unethical for us to file charges in a case in which we know that we will not be able to prevail because the law does not support the.
So the law allows for the police officer to kill you. This is the law that they have in Minneapolis about the no-knock warrants. The law allows them to do that. There's a problem with the law. After what happened with George Floyd, how could this law still be in place? This is why when people say that they're against defunding the police, I just shake my head. Joe Biden has given the police more money. He's increasing the police state. These police departments get more money. They get militarized equipment. They get more officers, and they still can't seem to figure out how to do their job. So if that is the case, why are we still giving them money? Why are we giving these police departments more money just to continue to kill people? I've said this before and I'll say it again. Police officers solve 0.02% of crime. What are they there for? What are they doing with all of their time? Let's go back in.
Charges. And still, and yet, a loving, promising young man is dead. His death leaves us with a wound in our community, but that is small in comparison to the wound that his family is suffering from. Communities have been torn apart by the trauma yet again, and the life of a police officer has been changed forever as well. If the law does not allow us to file criminal charges in this case, what can we do as policymakers, prosecutors, society, community?
You get rid of the law. You change the law. You remove no-knock warrants. No-knock warrants need to be outlawed across this country. I don't want this to be a state issue. I want to be very clear about this. This is something that President Biden should be pushing for, but he's not going to. And I'm going to show you some data in a second after this video clip. I'm going to show you some data in a second to show you why he's not doing this. We saw this go down with Breonna Taylor. Another situation where there was a no-knock warrant. Some people said they heard a knock. Some people said they didn't hear a knock. At the end of the day, it was a no-knock warrant. If you are asleep on the couch and someone bursts through your front door, what is going to be your initial reaction? When they came in, and you can watch the old video footage for this, they already had their guns drawn. They went in with the intent to shoot. Now, as a police officer, you are supposed to de-escalate the situation. You are not supposed to escalate it. It doesn't matter that Amir Locke had a gun right next to him. That is not relevant. He had a gun that was legal, that he was authorized to carry. He did it the right way. He took the right precautions. He took the proper steps to get a gun. And the reason why I say the gun is irrelevant is because even if Amir Locke did not have a gun, I just told you, if you watch the video footage, when they came in through the door, they already had their guns drawn. They were ready to shoot, whether he had a gun or not. If it wasn't a gun, they would have said it was something else. He picked up his cell phone. How many times have we heard that story? He reached for a book and we thought it was a gun. He had his hands up, but it looked like he was going to shoot, even though there was no weapon in his hand. It's always something. Now, I don't know the mayor of Minneapolis, but I think it's time that he needs to go. How many situations with police officers in his city is going to happen and make national news? It's been what, 2 years since George Floyd? And there's been other police incidents in Minneapolis since then that have made national news. And now you have this one. So the question I pose to you, especially those of you living in Minneapolis, what the hell is the mayor of Minneapolis doing? Let's bring this back to Amy Klobuchar. Because when it's time for her to be up for re-election, if she decides to run again, if you're living in Minnesota, I want you to remember this. Amy Klobuchar. The reason why Derek Chauvin was able to do what he did to George Floyd is because people like Amy Klobuchar let him go. That was not the first time that Derek Chauvin had brutalized people in Minneapolis. There was another incident in 2006, and Amy Klobuchar let him go. She let him stay on the force. Amy Klobuchar, why would she do that? I have some data I'm going to show you that explains that. Amy Klobuchar and the mayor of the mayor of Minneapolis, they need to go. Vote them out. It is very obvious to me that the mayor of Minneapolis does not know what he's doing running this city. This is one of those moments when you need to bring in Arrow. You need to bring in Oliver Queen as the Green Arrow to swoop down on the mayor of Minneapolis and say, you have failed this city. Let's go back into the video.
To keep a death like Amir's from happening again. First, we need to interrogate whether no-knock warrants are ever really needed.
What?
There are inherent...
There's nothing for you to interrogate here. This is coming from, I believe he is African American. What do you need to interrogate? What do you need to think about? There's an easy answer to this question. This is the same kind of answer that you hear from politicians every freaking year. Well, we need to look into that. We need to do the research. We need to investigate it when the research has already been done. There is nothing you need to look into. Get rid of it. Period.
For everyone involved, including civilians and officers. Cities like St. Paul and even some states have stopped using them, and it hasn't hurt public safety. Yesterday, Mayor Frey issued another no-knock policy, which appears stronger than the previous one. Now this policy needs to be actually enforced and obeyed. Then God. Maybe Minneapolis can get the results like St. Paul, which hasn't used a no-knock warrant since 2016 with no harm to public safety. Second, Congress must pass the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. I don't mean someday, I mean now.
No.
We need state and local.
No. I'm sorry. Don't put no. The George Floyd Policing Act actually gives more money to the police Take a look at it when you get a chance. They're not telling you that. It sounds good, right? Sounds good in theory until you actually look at it and you see they're giving them more money. How do you think George Floyd would feel about that? Using his name to make it seem like you're actually going to help African Americans against police brutality. And then you go further down in the bill and you see that they're giving the police more money. How do you think he'd feel? You see how he just threw it back on Congress? This is what they do. They pass the buck every time. Not our fault. Blame them. It's your city. You can do it locally. The whole police department of Minneapolis is corrupt. Every time I turn around, I got to hear about them on the news and their incompetent mayor who can't run a city. I have a lot of criticism for Congress. But at the end of the day, there is a mayor of that city. And by the way, the mayor can remove police officers. Passing the buck to someone else. The whole police department in Minneapolis needs to go. Because if you take out, look what happened. They took out Derek Chauvin, right? Derek Chauvin went to prison. This is why I told you guys back then, don't celebrate. This is not over. I tried to explain to you that it's not just one police officer. It's the entire system. They removed Derek Chauvin and they're still having police brutality in Minneapolis because it's not one officer. It is the entire system. It is corrupt and it needs to go. So when I tell you that you need to defund the police, and many of you were against that. Many of you were listening to some of these leftist commentators who gave you false polls, false reporting. Oh, the majority of Democrats are against it. Giving you Republican polls and disguising them as Democrat polls. Trying to get you away from revolution. Trying to get you away from abolition. They didn't have to look further into those polls. You know why? Because at the end of the day, it doesn't affect them. They're not affected. This is a problem. The entire system is problematic. And I hope that this situation, one thing that people can learn from this situation, when you look at Minneapolis and the police department there, was that they removed a significant bad apple. But at the end of the day, it did not matter because the entire root of that tree is infected. You need to cut down the damn tree. Let me go back in and finish this.
Actions as well, including enacting the rest of the recommendations of the working group to deadly force encounters that Commissioner Harrington and I released more than 2 years ago with the inspiration and advice from County Attorney Freeman. Third, Minneapolis leaders need to talk about putting an end to in-custody deaths this way, but we need to get serious about doing it. The problems involving policing and communities of color in Minneapolis are.
They need to talk about it. He just said they need to talk about it. They haven't even had these discussions. After George Floyd, they haven't even talked about it. He's saying they need to talk about it now and get serious about doing something about it. You see, all that national media attention around George Floyd didn't change a damn thing in that police department.
Long-standing and everyone knows it, yet it feels like nothing ever is done about it. Finally, as prosecutors, we need to continue to hold offenders accountable and uphold the law and uphold standards of justice.
Wait a minute,
The fact is, as I've said before, we'll uphold the principle that no one is above.
Why haven't you been doing that all along? Look at the look on their faces, you guys. Do you buy this? You mean all this time he just admitted to you, he just said the quiet part out loud. He just admitted to you that all this time they have not been upholding the law. Thank you for admitting that. I hope everybody caught that.
Above the law, and no one's beneath it either. And with that, I think we're prepared to, unless you want to make some more remarks. Amen. Thank you very much.
Tonight, there's a new round of punishment from the U.S. and
I mentioned Amy Klobuchar to you, and I mentioned Joe Biden to you. I want to show you something. This should be the one with the charts. Let me see. Let me see if this is the one, Eric. No, this is not it. I don't know what this is. Oh, okay. I will go to, yeah, this is the one with the chart. Okay. Yep, this is what I want to highlight. Yes. Any way I can make this bigger to where the chart stands out? There it is. Okay. I want to show you something. I want you to take a look at this chart. It's a little push towards the right, but that's what happens sometimes when you zoom in. I can zoom in one more time and see if that, yeah, that's better. Not that one. I want you to look at the chart right above, right about there. Top police union and law enforcement PAC contribution recipients, current senators. Total contributions to current senators from 55 police union and law enforcement PACs since 1994. By the way, this is public information. You can pull this off of opensecrets.org. The senator receiving the most money from police unions is Senator Patrick Leahy. By the way, he's a Democrat. He's from Vermont. But right underneath of him is Miss Amy Klobuchar. Out of all the senators in DC, Amy Klobuchar is number 2 for taking money from police unions. Now, I just told you, Amy Klobuchar let Derek Chauvin go back in 2006. George Floyd may still be alive today. You would think that would weigh on her soul, but I don't know. Amy Klobuchar is number 2. I also want to point out that there are more Democrats on this list than Republicans. And this just goes to show you that Democrats and Republicans both support the police state. They're not that different as people think. But Amy Klobuchar is number 2. And you wonder why the police department, you wonder why the police departments in Minnesota are so corrupt. There's no accountability. The state senator is supporting the police state. You have a mayor of Minneapolis that doesn't have the guts to remove people. doesn't have the guts to walk into that police department and make change. Vote him out. Minneapolis, Minnesota, Miss Amy Klobuchar. Let's take a look at Joe Biden. Here we go. Top federal recipients of individual itemized contributions from law enforcement officers during the 2020 cycle. Donations less than $200 are excluded to account for itemization discrepancies between Act Blue and Win Red. This is also on Open Secrets. Take a good look at this. Donald Trump received the most money. That does not surprise me. The Republican National Committee was number 2. But look at who is number 3. Joe Biden. Joe Biden. This is why I tell people they're not that different. Now do you see why Joe Biden wants to continue to fund the police state? Increase police funding? This is why I tell you it's important that you find out who their donors are. There's others on this list as well. If you go further down, there's Miss Kamala Harris. That shouldn't be surprising. DNC Services Corporation. And look at here, Bernie Sanders. Yes, Aziz, is Bernie really on that list? He is on this list. Democratic Senatorial Campaign is also on this list. That's right, Razal. Numbers don't lie. I know this may be disappointing for some of you to see, but this is why I always tell you, follow the money. I feel incredibly sorry for Amir Locke's mother. And you know, this wasn't someone that they could point to and say he had a history. They've done that with a lot of them, by the way. They did that with George Floyd as well. This isn't someone that they could point to and say he was a bad kid. He's been in trouble. He has a record. Couldn't do that this time. No knock warrants have to go. And as much as President Joe Biden last year liked to brag about the George Floyd Policing Act and saying that Congress needs to pass it, the correct thing to say would have been no knock warrants have got to go. Get rid of them. Because I told you that George Floyd Policing Act gives money to the police. So of course Joe Biden's going to get behind that. It's a shame. I'm going to go to some of the comments and then I have something else I want to show you as well. Christian said, if I sucked at my job, I'd get demoted to the point I'd get fired. No accountability for them. What a sick system. 100% Christian. Thanks to Delthea for the super chat. Police are not about solving crime. They are about containing certain neighbors so that other neighborhoods won't experience barbarians at their gates. I agree. Police protect capital. Don't really protect people. And I've told you they only solve 0.02% of crime. Where are all those missing children, you guys? Have the police found them? Todd said, as long as law enforcement is killing people of color, there will be no force for change. It's terrible. It's terrible. But I want you to remember where policing comes from. The origin of policing in the United States came from slave patrols. They're doing the same thing. They're still hunting down Black people, unarmed Black people too. That's why it's important we talk about the history of this country, which some people don't want you to do. Name, as Mike said, love how it took a Black guy to tell the people they're not going after the pigs who killed a Black victim. They always do that though, don't they? Let's get the Black guy to say it. That way it'll go over easier. That's on purpose. Doesn't go over easier with me. So there was one more that I believe I wanted to show you. I just want to show you this image here. This is where they mention Breonna Taylor. Listen to this really quick. If we've learned anything from Breonna Taylor, it's that we know no-knock warrants have deadly consequences for Black American citizens. Now, that came from Ben Crump, who's the family's attorney. We already know this. We've already learned this lesson, should have learned this lesson. His family said the police startled him while he was asleep and he drew the gun, which he was licensed to carry in self-defense. But again, all of this could have been, avoided if they didn't have a no-knock warrant. And Amir Locke would still be alive today. Something I want you to think about. But when I tell people we need to defund the police, I'm called radical. I'm an extremist. Someone needs to show this story to Joe Rogan. He's another one came out against defund the police. And it's not just people like Joe Rogan. You have some of these Black celebrities who have also come out against defund the police. Mind you, they're Black, but they're also rich. And I've told you this before. People like Will Smith, people like Morgan Freeman, who have spoken out about defunding the police. A lot of these Black celebrities are class loyal first. They want to protect their wealth and they want to protect their property. And this is why I tell you, you cannot let them try to lead any type of movement, because they're all for it when it's popular. The moment it starts to lose any type of support or steam, they back off. They'll smear it. They'll criticize it. Hollywood for a long time has been using celebrities, particularly Black celebrities, to ruin movements or to co-op movements. Look at what happened to Black Lives Matter. By the way, BLM just purchased a $6.5 million house. Look at what happened when the Democratic Party got a hold of BLM. Cadillac, Nike, when corporations got a hold of that movement, it's been watered down and it was sold out. You can't let them lead this. For them, it is all about a profit. Cadillac supports BLM because they were able to make money off of it. Same thing with Nike. If there was no money in it, you wouldn't have heard from them. It is a corrupt capitalist system. Hit that like button, guys. That really helps me with the algorithm. I'm a little angry tonight. I'm a little angry because every time I turn around, it's another police story on the news. Nothing has changed. Nothing has improved. And it may not be your friend. It may not be your family member. But one day it could be. Christian said, remember Obama called the NBA and made them stop protesting and to play? I sure do. I will never forget how one call ended a very significant and powerful movement, or what it could have been. Like I said, a lot of the Black celebrities are class loyal first. NBA strike could have really went far. Just like that, they backed off, walked away. Let's go ahead and get into our second story. I'm going to go into Russell Brand, and I think if you are concerned about censorship and big tech, you really need to pay attention to this story in particular. So Russell Brand recently had an episode on his podcast about Facebook and CNN. Listen to this. Get ready. If you think we have censorship now, get ready for it.
Good news! A new proposed bill will mean that big tech and big media mesh together in a mighty new alliance that can only mean good news for everybody. And who will decide what good news is? They will. Hello there, you 5.4 million awakening wonders. How grateful I am that we are here together, able, for the moment, to communicate somewhat freely about the complex issues that we face and the simple ideas that seem to be stifled and prevented from being explored. You know, currently I'm on tour. If you want to come and see me, there's a link in the description. A few tickets left in a few places. You'll enjoy it, I'm sure. If you're not a member of my mailing list yet, please sign up for it. It's very important I have direct access to you. Believe me, it's important.
Sorry, just going to speed it up here. Here we go.
To control the narratives that dominate our lives. Senator Lindsey Graham, Senator John Kennedy, Senator Cory A. Booker, Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, a lot of other senators, I can't do all of their names, a lot of them seem to come from families I've already heard of, are all backing a bill that empowers mainstream media at the expense of smaller outlets and independent content creators. Hey!
Let's pause it right there. Let's go back, and I want you to take a look at these names. Here we go. Lindsey Graham, John Kennedy. Oh, what do you know? There's Cory Booker. Sheldon Whitehouse, Cynthia Loomis, Dianne Feinstein, Susan Collins, and Rand Paul. They're all a part of this. This is bipartisanship at its finest. Do you see this? They can come together when it comes to big tech, when it comes to controlling a media narrative. They can come together for that. What's really upsetting, why the hell is Cory Booker on this list? Let's go on. Let's go on.
Lindsey Graham, Senator John Kennedy, Senator Cory A. Booker, Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, a lot of other senators, I can't do all of their names, a lot of them seem to come from families I've already heard of, are all backing a bill that empowers mainstream media at the expense of smaller outlets and independent content creators. Hey, we're independent content creators. This affects me. Why are they doing that? Why would a democratically elected official do something that prohibits the free flow of information? Let me answer on their behalf. Oh, you know, hate speech, you know, misinformation. Whose hate speech? Whose misinformation? Has anything happened in the last few years or century or so that's made you question the ability of people that have political power, particularly when acting in alliance with big institutions, to do what's best for you? Has anything happened? Do you want to check? Do you want to go?
Let's chime in here for a second. This is why it is really dangerous that the media basically marches to the beat of DC. The politicians, the media, social media, they're all together. There is a reason why Facebook made an exception to their hate speech policy when it came to Russia, because that was okay according to DC. That was okay according to the Biden administration. It's not okay for you to do it the other way around. And I don't know if everyone noticed this today, but Scott Ritter was pulled from Twitter today. Scott Ritter was a military intelligence officer. He's written several books. He said some things about Ukraine in a tweet that were actually true, and now he's gone. I'll go back into the video.
Google it. When you eliminate independent voices, the result looks a little bit like this.
The sharing of biased and
False news has become all too common on social media.
More alarmingly, some media outlets simply aren't true without checking facts first. Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
They all have the same talking points. They all have the same script. Different news stations, different networks, but they are all saying the same narrative.
It's extremely dangerous to our democracy.
What we need is a lot more of that. The senators are co-sponsoring the Journalism Competition and Preservation Act, which has been accused of actually hindering competition. We need a Competition Act. What does it do? It gets rid of competition. And does it preserve anything? Hell no! Instead of promoting competition in the world of media, the bill would allow mainstream media companies like CNN, you like those, right? The New York Times, good guys, Washington Post, hello, and MSNBC, who I know you love, to form an alliance and collectively bargain with big tech platforms. Who does...
That is incredibly dangerous. They are proposing a bill that is going to allow networks like CNN, the New York Times, to collaborate with big tech and control the narrative. If you think that we have problems with censorship right now, if this bill passes, we will see so much more issues with this. And I'm going to follow this very closely because I want to see who votes for this bill. And I'm going to pay close attention to particular votes. Ro Khanna, for one, since he went on this big speech recently talking about how we need to have free speech, let's hold his feet to the fire. Let's see how he votes on this bill. Let's go back in.
That place power in the hands of? Do you think that's for your benefit? Do you think that's your friends out there, that they've got your back, that they're looking out for you? Big media and big tech coming together at last. Do you ever look out your window or live your life and think, do you know what I want? More power and more alliance and collaboration between big tech and big media. If only we can get Big Pharma in there somewhere, we can be pummeled from all sides till we're just a puddle of total compliance swimming in drugs that we didn't need. I'm talking about the opioids. These mainstream outlets would be able to form new deals with online platforms that would force tech platforms to uprank their own content at the expense of independent content creators and independent voices. And who does that benefit? Who does that benefit? The bill has a provision allowing legacy media to exclude companies that are not similarly situated. Oh.
Let's pause there for a second. To exclude companies that are not situated. Let me go back so I can keep that part up on the screen. Right about there. The bill has a provision allowing legacy media to exclude companies that are not similarly situated. That means any of us, those of us that do independent media, people like me, people like Revolutionary Blackout Network, Hard Lens Media, Status Quo, any of us. The only one that will probably be safe is TYT. And the reason why I say that is because Kim Iverson said this a while back when she came on this show, that TYT has actually been defined as a real news network. So they'll probably be safe, and The Hill will probably be safe. The rest of us floating out in this boat in the middle of the ocean, we would be a target, especially those of us that have smaller channels. They really don't try to mess with the large channels too much for the most part. But they have no problem just picking the smaller channels off. I watched them do it to MCSC Network. They did it to Franco from Frank Analysis. They did the same thing to Unapologetic. I've watched them just boom, 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 demonetize people who were doing great work, by the way. We really need to prepare for this. This is why I'm on multiple platforms. If you're following me here on YouTube, make sure you follow me on Rockfin. Same name, Sabby Sabs. I'm also on Odyssey. Same name, Sabby Sabs. I need to jump on Rumble. This is a scary moment. This is why this is an idea that Jordan Sheraton had that I think is actually a really good idea. There needs to be one large network where all of us that do left independent media are on that network, but not on YouTube. TYT, for example, has a Roku channel. I think David Pakman might too. We need to find something else. Because this is not promised. Who knows what YouTube's going to do a week from now, a year from now? I don't know. It's very important for people to know. Let me go back into the video.
Provision allowing legacy media to exclude companies that are not similarly situated. Oh man, the language. Are you similarly situated? Well, not really actually, because I still feel connected to the communities that I grew up in and I'm trying to freely communicate. Yeah, that's not a good situation. Vetoed! Meaning independent journalists and small media companies will not get the benefit of the bargains with big tech. Those are the very voices that need to be protected, even if you don't agree with them. That's why I have conversations with people that I don't agree with at all, because I recognise their right to disagree and the value of our disagreement. I talk to people that are from completely different political backgrounds, other ends of the political spectrum, even though I hope I'm outside of the political spectrum altogether, and just listen and hope that there are ways that we can cooperate or at least coexist. Tennessee Senator Marsha Blackburn has warned the bill would result in more censorship by big tech. Big news and big tech team up and filter the news, said Senator Blackburn, and really take control of what you hear and what you see when it comes to news. Dr. Daniel Francis, professor at Harvard and a former official at the Federal Trade Commission, said in the event that this were created, two things would happen. The first is that the most immediate beneficiaries would be the participating media companies, obviously including some very large conglomerates. Quick! War in Ukraine! Pandemic! Horror! Will someone please protect the media conglomerates? And certainly, the cartel overcharge that would emerge from agreements on prices would be paid in the first instance by Google, Facebook, and then transmitted most likely in the form of higher prices for advertising down the chain to consumers.
Now, I want to talk about this with Facebook really quick because I don't know if everyone saw this or is aware of this. Facebook is hugely problematic. Facebook has censored friends of mine because they didn't have their real name. A lot of people don't have their real name on Facebook. Maybe it's because they don't want their employer to find their Facebook page. They've pulled people off of Facebook like that. And Jimmy Dore mentioned this recently on his live stream. Jimmy Dore said they've been demonetized on Facebook. So if they can come after a channel that big, what does that tell you about Facebook? So you're gonna pair up Facebook with CNN, the New York Times. If you think we're being suppressed now, we will be even more suppressed. It will almost be impossible for you to find us. This is the reason why I share my videos on social media outlets. If it wasn't for Twitter, I don't know if a lot of people would have found me. I really don't. Well, probably Twitter and Jimmy Dore. That's what most people tell me. Twitter or Jimmy Dore is how they found me. They're going to start working together. And now you have Elon Musk. He's purchased part of Twitter. Look out for that one. Here comes more censorship on Twitter. One of the things that I say to people is you need to ask the question, why do those networks have the talking points that they have the narrative that they have? Well, then you need to know who owns those networks. I'm going to show you that in just a second. Actually, I'm going to show you that now. I'm going to come back to this, Eric. Okay. Let's play a game. You guys like games? Let's do it. Let's go to Google. Sometimes I like to do this thing where I go down a rabbit hole. Tonight, you're going to do that with me. I'm going to show you how I find information. Let's go into Google. By the way, I got this all off of Google. I've already done this, but I'm going to show you. Let me share my screen. This should be fun. I feel like I'm teaching class right now when I do this. I said, let's play a game, but I'm not Jigsaw. This is not the movie Saw. Just wanted to mention that if you've seen that. I'm sorry. Not to scare you. All right, here comes the game. I'm going to make this a little bit larger so you guys can see how I do this. All right. Who owns CNN? Turner Broadcasting System. By the way, I've already researched this, so I know this is true. Let's continue this game. Who owns Turner Broadcasting System? You don't even have to type it all in. Warner Media. You guys following me here? We're going down the rabbit hole. I'm really dangerous at doing this, by the way. Sometimes I do this and I could be doing this for hours. Who owns this? Who owns that? But this is how I find out a lot, right? Who owns Warner Media? Excuse me, hit the wrong thing. Who owns Warner Media? It's not Warner Brothers. All one word. AT&T. And you can double check this, by the way. Who owns Warner Media? It's owned by AT&T. Someone just mentioned they booted Ted out. Yes, Ted Turner doesn't own Turner Studios anymore. Thanks for mentioning that. You're right. They got rid of him. Let's continue this rabbit hole. AT&T. Who owns AT&T? And this is where it kind of stops. AT&T Corporation partner organizations. Okay. Now I want to see who is invested in AT&T. And this is where the problem comes in. So when I tell you, you got to dig a little bit, most people will just stop at who owns CNN. They'll just stop right there and say, oh, okay, Turner Broadcasting. That's it. That's all I need to know. But here's something you really need to see. Now, I took you all the way back to AT&T. The top shareholders of AT&T are Randall L. Stevenson, John Stevens, William Blaise, and here's the three that you really need to pay close attention to. Vanguard Group, BlackRock, and State Street Corporation. Let's say it again for the people in the back. You need to pay close attention to these three right here. Vanguard Group, BlackRock, and State Street Corporation. This is the problem. It's easy to point at CNN and MSNBC and Fox News and say their talking points are bad. They're not telling everybody the truth is corrupt. It's easy to look back and say, who owns CNN? Oh, okay. Turner. All right. And stop right there. But you should not stop right there. Because at the end of the day, you have to see who controls the money. The shareholders are the ones that have the voice. They are the ones that hold these key decision-making abilities. BlackRock last year got a lot of attention because of the coal miners' strike in Alabama. The coal miners, and Nick and I talked about this on the show, the coal miners came forward and they said that BlackRock was purchasing real estate. They were buying all these different shares. And then all of a sudden, one by one, their benefits started to go away. They didn't want to give these guys health insurance. That was all BlackRock. They've protested outside of BlackRock in New York. They were arrested. You have to pay attention to this. When I tell you, you got to follow the money. That is why I tell you that. That's who's running the show. I see you got a graphic for me, Eric. I'm going to put it up here. Look at this. Here's your problem, peeps. Comcast, Disney, Viacom, Time Warner, News Corp, Sony, and then you have all these channels. You see, the channels are relatively small when you look at the corporations that own them. See how small the channels really are when you see it in a visual? Viacom, very powerful. Disney, I think we all know, is very powerful. Comcast donated money to Joe Biden. Guys, this is the problem. I wish more people would do this. A lot of people want to point fingers at individual people instead of pointing fingers right at the companies with the money. I'm going to go to some of the comments in the chat. Thank you for the super chat, Tony. Operation Mockingbird. There you go. There you go. A kid said, Sabby, yes, a unified message is how the psychology behind marketing gets into the populace minds. Manufacturing consent and normalizing what once was not accepted. Well said, a kid. Latif said Elon Musk already Already made it on the board just for buying a 9% stake. Fucking really. Telling you, Elon Musk, Bill Gates, all of them buying up all this stuff. Bill Gates buying up the land. Elon Musk buying up anything he can pretty much get his hands on, but now he's got his hand in social media. LPA Film says, so where is indie media / content creators? Shouldn't there be a petition going around, info on TikTok, etc.? Yes, I agree. We should get something going. TikTok might take it down though. They're a little bit more strict over there. But we should get something going. Maybe we can talk to, maybe you guys like ping Jordan. Cause this whole channel thing, that was Jordan's idea. Ping Jordan and be like, hey, Jordan, get people together, because Jordan is the reason why I also say ping Jordan is because Jordan has connections on both sides. Like Jordan is connected to the smaller channels and he's connected to the larger channels. Those of us with the smaller channels, for the most part, we have no connection to people with the larger channels, with a few exceptions, right? So Jordan is one of those people. He knows everybody. Ping Jordan. The next time you see Status Cool live, go into the live chat and say, Jordan, I think you need to get a petition going. He would probably be really good at something like that. Like I said, Status Cool, they're used to being out on the ground. Like they do a lot of, but he would be the one I think should lead it. He knows everybody. Thanks so much for the super chat, Delthea Simmons. Social media is the public square, and participation in the public discourse should be protected, not ejected. Thank you so much for that, Delthea. I agree. Ugh, almost got tongue-tied. Thanks for the super chat. Thanks for the super chat, Brothwaite. This is nothing compared to inflation riots coming currently in Sri Lanka, Peru, and Greece. More countries to follow. Might have one here. People get fed up enough. Name is Mike. Viacom is even more powerful since they re-emerged back with CBS. Ogre Smoker says, and BlackRock is a major investor in all of them. Boom. Delthea says, don't be surprised when Disney takes Sony. That mouse ain't playing. I hear you on that one. And thanks so much for the super chat, Troy. This is why we need to support indie media like RBN and Sabby Sabs. Oh, thank you so much, Troy. I appreciate that. E.G. Butler says the problem is capitalism. 100%. See what happens? They're controlling it all. They'll just keep us fighting with each other over Trump bad, Orange Man bad. They'll keep us arguing with each other over a demented Joe Biden. While we're focused on that, and we're focused on Chris Rock and Will Smith, the people who are controlling it all are just looking down, laughing at us. Let me go back into my video. All right, so here we go. Let's go back into this. Sorry, Russell, I went on a tangent there.
Get you from every angle. In a way, I almost admire it. Like the Death Star and Darth Vader. I sort of think, God, I mean, I didn't know that that was actually possible, that you could do that. You'll prevent open communication, you'll form new dreadful alliances, and then down the line, the very people that you've dispossessed and disenfranchised will have to pay more money for products because ad revenue charges will go up. Well done. I almost have to applaud you as I wither in my grave. Advocacy group Free Press Action have joined with other digital rights, consumer rights and journalism advocacy groups on a letter that raises serious concerns about the legislation. Could you have a more perfect encapsulation of the imbalance of power? That the voice opposing these measures is writing a letter. Facebook. MSNBC. Dear sir, I'm...
Sorry, guys. It's
Writing
skipping a
most
little bit.
urgently to say that we disagree in the strongest possible way with your menacing, draconian, centralized media forces. Ha 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 ha! Thank you for your letter. Ah! The laugh's on you. That ink smudged all over your fangs. Allowing a news media cartel by statute, the letter says, may actually hurt local publishers by entrenching existing power relationships between the largest platforms and the largest publishers. News giants with the greatest leverage would dominate the negotiations, and smaller outlets with diverse or dissenting voices would be unheard, if not hurt. The most vocal.
There you go. You just heard it. The dissenting voices will be unheard, if not heard. There you go.
With the greatest leverage would dominate the negotiations, and smaller outlets with diverse or dissenting voices would be unheard, if not hurt. The most vocal supporters of the bill include lobbyists working for Rupert Murdoch's News Corp, the National Association of Broadcasters, the News Media Alliance, and large media conglomerates and hedge funds. So there you go.
There you go.
Big finance, big media, lobbying for this bill to be passed. So then people at the beginning, if they...
There you go. They're all connected. Finance is in there, big media, big tech. That's all they need, right? That's all they need. I'll play a little bit more and then I have to get into the next story.
Agree with this bill. Senator Lindsey Graham, Senator John Kennedy, Cory Booker, Sheldon Whitehouse, Cynthia Lummis, Dianne Feinstein. If they agree with it, who they also agree with, it seems, are the people being paid by News Corp, National Association of Broadcasters, new media like conglomerates, hedge funds. So who are they representing then? If they are representing you in some weird abstract way that I can't begin to understand, they are also, by some financially rewarding coincidence, potentially, supporting these dudes. Unless that lobbyist money is just all going to charities for the vulnerable. I don't know how it works. Free press.
All right. You heard it. You heard it. They're supposed to be working for us. They're supposed to be supporting us. But everything he just told you right there, the National Broadcasting Association, those hedge fund groups, those politicians that are proposing this bill, they support those groups. Again, I'm going to follow this heavily because I do want to see who votes in favor of this. And when I see those votes, I can give you that list. And there you go. This is why something like Force the Vote was so incredibly important, because it would have showed us who's who. We would have seen who's in favor of Medicare for all in this country, just like we saw there were 8 Democrats that opposed $15 minimum wage. That is important for you to know. But what can we do? We can't turn back time, right? All we can do is educate people and move forward. I want to go into the third and final story, which is about expanding Obamacare. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I'm asking for Medicare for all, for universal health care for everyone in this country, expanding Obamacare. While it may sound okay on the surface, when you get underneath of it and you get into the root, you'll see that this too is really not going to help people. Let me go ahead and put this up on the screen. Now, this came out, I believe I saw this first last night, if I remember correctly. I think it was last night. White House expands Obamacare again, fixing family glitch and broadening subsidized plan eligibility. Let's go down. Here we go. Biden's administration plans to expand the availability of coverage under the Affordable Care Act, citing a glitch that has prevented around 5 million people from qualifying for subsidized health plans. The White House will be pushing forward an amendment to the program that will allow families with health insurance through an employer to receive financial assistance paying for the coverage. Under the proposed change, households that spend 10% or more on health insurance will now qualify for financial assistance. Biden will take additional action to further strengthen the ACA and save families hundreds of dollars a month on their health care. But Biden officials provided few details on how much the expansion would cost or how it would be paid for. Remember back when Bernie Sanders kept advocating for Medicare for all during the Democratic primary debates? Everyone was asking Bernie over and over again, how are you going to pay for it? How are you going to pay for it? How are you going to pay for it? But notice how when Joe Biden discusses expanding Obamacare, why doesn't Joe Biden have to explain how he's going to pay for it? I noticed that when I read this story last night, all of a sudden, he doesn't have to do that. But when you're talking about giving health care to everybody in the United States, you have to explain how you're going to pay for it. He doesn't have to explain how he's going to pay for this. Just wanted to show you the hypocrisy there. There's more to this story. Under the current guidelines of the program, reasonable employer-based health insurance is a disqualifying factor in applications for ACA assistance. That's important for people to know, you guys. I want you to pay close attention to that. Reasonable employer-based health insurance is a disqualifying factor. Now, if you noticed, I want to highlight this word here, reasonable. Because the question that I have, what is considered reasonable? What does the Biden administration consider reasonable employee-based health insurance? What is it? Anyone know? Anyone have an idea? Is reasonable based on the premiums that you have to pay for that employee health insurance? So what if the Biden administration considers $300 a month premium to be reasonable? Is that reasonable to someone who's working class? Is it reasonable to someone who's poor in this country? Nope. So define reasonable. Because see, these are some of the things, like if we said words like this with Medicare for all, we will have a reasonable, oh, they would have hit us left and right. What's reasonable? That's just something important to note. I don't know how I feel about this. This isn't universal health care, and it scares me that they're using words like reasonable. Reasonable can mean different things to different people, right? Let's go down. It gets a little bit more sketchy. Affordable has previously been defined as under 10% of income. Now let's talk about this for just a second. Affordable has been previously defined as under 10% of the income. But this all goes back to the cost of living, because if your employee health insurance is under 10% of your income, but you live in a state that has a high cost of living, let's say Massachusetts, because this is where I am, the Biden administration may still consider your employee coverage to be okay. So you wouldn't be able to qualify for the expansion of Obamacare because the Biden administration just told you, I'm sorry, but your employer-based health insurance is 10% or under 10% of your income. This is the problem. This is the problem. So we'll go into this deeper. There's more to this. However, this metric fails to account for the skyrocketing premiums for individual. However, this metric fails to account for the skyrocketing premiums for individual family members on the same plan, which have become an increasing burden on low-income households. This is what I was telling you about the cost of living. This is a problem. This metric fails to account for the skyrocketing premiums for individual family members on the same plan, which have become an increasing burden on low-income households. So this is what I think is going to happen. They're going to go ahead and they're going to expand Obamacare. And they're going to brag about, we just gave 5 million Americans access to healthcare. Don't you love when they use that word access, by the way? We just gave 5 million Americans access to healthcare. And what they're not going to tell you is that the individuals on the Obamacare plan, their premiums just shot through the roof. So if you're low income, yeah, all these other people just got access to healthcare. By the way, expanding it is not going to cover everybody. I just want to make that very clear. But now you have high premiums that you did not have before. They weren't as high before. Now they have increased. Where are you supposed to get the money to pay that? This is not a win for the American people. This is a win for Big Pharma. If it actually was beneficial to all of us, they wouldn't be doing it. This is a tricky one. This is a tricky one because I already see people bragging about this on social media. And I'm like, did you look into this? You think Joe Biden's just going to hand this up? No, this comes at a cost. I saw someone say something in the chat. I lost you. I did. Oh man, I wish I would have grabbed it as soon as I saw it. And then I turned away. Skyrocketing. It's going to increase. See, they're not mentioning that part. Of course, right? Let's go back in. Yes, Osito, universal healthcare is the only answer. I agree 100%. Laura Hansen said it's a psyop. Optical illusion of compassion, right? Henry, thank you for the super chat. They don't want you to understand. It's paid for with votes in keystrokes. I hear you 100%. Let's go back in. So pay attention to that. Skyrocketing premiums for individual family members on the same plan. And this has become an increasing burden on low-income households. The proposed change will go into effect January 2023. The announcement comes as former President Barack Obama made an in-person return to the White House for the first time since 2017. Guys, this is a problem. And by the way, I looked up information about this on multiple publications, and there were very few that pointed out the skyrocketing premiums for individual family members. Very few. But I had to keep digging because I knew there was a catch to this. I knew there was a catch. Joe Biden would not just hand this over like that. Thanks for the comment on Rockfin. Laura Baza, Senator's Insurance. I'd find that reasonable. All right, I'll take those comments on Rockfin, Eric. Don't get excited about this, guys. I'm telling you, I knew there was a catch. I knew there was a catch. I knew people would pay for it in some way, shape, or form. Thanks for the tip, Laura. Sabby Sabs receives a tip. Thanks for the tip, Jean says, great job, Sabby. Thank you so much. Thanks for the tip, Roger Meadows. Whew. Roger Meadows says, whew. I've been chomping at the bit to message. Had 2 passengers taking a trip to Staten Island as you talk cops. The borough with the most cops. One of the ladies asked me to turn you down. You had me on while you were driving, people. Oh my God. As she went to talking about her stocks in Disney are hurting because of protests about Don't Say Gay bill, said she'll probably sell her property. Denzel Washington said in an interview, we should stop complaining about cops. Denzel Washington can, you know what? I'm going to leave it alone. Keith looked like he was in a hostage video. End no knock. End qualified immunity. Get rid of big money in elections and build financial power in the community. Also, Sab, I forgot to mention to you to watch Hardlands Media today. Guess what state Kira covered today? It will be available at 10 tonight. Also, no more talk of $15 minimum wage, $35 instead. Thanks so much for those tips, Roger. Roger, I can't believe you're listening to me while you're like, Roger, I don't want to say he's an Uber driver. I think, well, Roger is like an Uber driver, but not for Uber. He works for a co-op company called Co-op Ride in New York. Download that app if you're in New York so you can contact them instead of Lyft and Uber. It's cheaper and it's a worker co-op. But I can't believe you were listening to me with people in the car. Oh God, I'm trying to remember everything I said now. Oh man. Eric said Roger spreading the word one fare at a time. Exactly, right? Oh dear. Oh dear. So, yes, Obama made another appearance at the White House. They're trying to brag about this. We're going to expand Obamacare. Woohoo! If you're not giving health care to everyone in the United States, that's not enough for me. I'm at a point in my life where I can't take crumbs anymore. I don't want the crumbs. I don't want the crust. I want the whole pizza. And you should too. And I think we need to stop accepting these little crumbs that they throw at us. We're not pigeons. Stop feeding us the breadcrumbs. I can't talk tonight. I don't know why. Just stop it. It is really difficult for me sometimes to convince people who have been so conditioned voting for the two-party system. Sometimes it's really difficult for me to get them to see that they're really not helping you. I think sometimes people want something to believe in. If it's not religion for you, maybe for some people, it's a political party. I think sometimes people want something to belong to. But there's other things that you can belong to. There's other groups that are actually doing things in the community across the country, helping people, feeding people, clothing people. Rome was just in Orlando doing Tour for the Poor with JB. That's over on RBN Stream. If you guys haven't seen that, definitely go check that out. There's other ways that you can actually help. The question is, do most people care enough to want to? Some people that I've talked to in my life, especially when I was in college, they seem to only really care when an issue affected them directly. Other than that, they just kind of felt like they were fine, their life was fine, so they didn't really care. And that's unfortunate. And hopefully we can get to a point in this country where we can get past that and get out of that mindset, that selfish individual mindset that we have in America. And then when we get to that point, then we can build community. Because we don't have it. We don't really have community here. So that's something that would definitely need to change. Shout out to Troy, who is a member for 7 months. The U.S. federal government does not need your tax dollars to fund things. It literally creates dollars. Poverty is a policy decision. Well said, Troy. Well said. All right, guys. I am past my time. I did something really cool earlier. That's why my show started at 8 tonight instead of 7. I was on Massachusetts Peace Action stream with Jill Stein. Really cool discussion there. I'm going to put the link in the chat. Check out that video, you guys. It's awesome. That's a great organization, by the way. If you're in the New England area, that's a great organization to get involved with. Especially if you're anti-war, anti-imperialist, definitely check them out. All right, guys, other than that, have a good night. Oh, go check out Nick. I think Nick and Josanna should be live over at RBN. I think they're streaming tonight. So other than that, guys, have a good night. Keep up the fight.